Welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning into our webinar series. I'm Rusaslina Idrus from University of Malaya. This webinar series will be focusing on issues concerning refugees in Malaysia by looking beyond the framing of refugees just as beneficiaries, but exploring the agency of refugees as active participants in advocating and mobilizing for their rights and livelihood. In today's conversation, I'll be speaking with Mahi Ramakrishnan and Saleh Sepas, co-directors of the Refugee Festival in Malaysia. We will be discussing the role of the arts, in particular the Refugee Festival itself, for advocacy and engagement. So Saleh Sepas is a writer and theatre director and founder of the Paris 2 Theatre troupe, and this year also takes the helm as co-director of the Refugee Festival. Mahi Ramakrishnan is a filmmaker, founder and co-director of the Refugee Festival, and is the executive director of Beyond Borders, an NGO working in alliance with refugee communities in Malaysia. Welcome Mahi and Saleh today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. A pleasure to be here.
Mahi, I'm going to start with you. You conceived the idea of the Refugee Festival 5-6 years ago. How did the first Refugee Festival came about, and how has it evolved over time?
Like you mentioned just now, I am an investigative journalist and a filmmaker, so essentially that's my work. And about 7-8 years ago, or yeah, easily about 7-8 years ago, I was commissioned by Press TV out of Iran to actually do a series of reports on the influx of the Rohingya refugees into Malaysia. So that's how I started working on the refugees, you know, oh yeah, I think this 15 years ago. Yeah. So what happened was I started making news reports about them and started talking to them more and more, then started expanding it to doing features stories as well. And then I realized that the issues surrounding the Rohingya refugee narrative was just too dizzyingly complex, and there were just too many multidimensional layers to it. And the more I got to know about them, the more attached I became emotionally. Even though as a journalist, the first thing they tell you is, you know, you need to be detached from the stories that you are actually working on, but it wasn't quite possible. And then what I did was I started working with them closely. I brought in schools, I brought in healthcare, and started looking at their needs and assistance as well. So in that process, I realized that I had come into contact with lots of people who were into the arts. As I expanded my focus to work on more of the bigger refugee communities, I realized that we had so many artists there, you know, from poets to writers to people who can sing and play music and do theater. And I thought, oh my God, you know, what a waste if this is not showcased. And I also realized that the art can be a very important tool to actually highlight not just the artistic abilities, but also the fact that it can be used to talk about the really difficult stuff, but, you know, using a more welcoming platform. And also, you know, given the fact that the refugees are not recognized by the Malaysian government, and, you know, it's not like there is a completely welcoming atmosphere in Malaysia, I thought it will be great to also use the art as a platform to connect the refugees with the larger Malaysian society, and also to work under the radar where the special branch was concerned, for example, because at the end of the day, it was just arts, and, you know, it was arts, and people were using poetry and music to actually, you know, convey very important messages. So 5 years ago, I decided, why don't we have a festival? So the first festival was, it was okay. It was kind of there, but I was learning, you know, while the intention was good, but the ability to bring it all together and to do something which was like, wow, this is brilliant, didn't quite happen. But the thing is, I was lucky in the sense that when I approached YB Charles Santiago, the Klang MP, he said, okay, he will launch it, even though he had his own, you know, concerns, like, you know, it's going to be on a Thursday, are people going to turn up, those kinds of things. But then people did come because people were curious. And then by the second year, you know, we kind of had a platform, we kind of had a better idea as to how to present the artists to the Malaysians. And the good thing is we also managed to take the poets to the Georgetown Literary Festival. That was a big thing. And then, you know, we got recognition in the third festival because people thought, okay, so she's still here, so she must be doing something right. So more people came, more students came, and we were also able to expand and look for more artists. And fourth year, we were doing really good because we had expanded to Penang. And then I also, one day I looked back at Publica and said, this place is elitist. I'm very grateful that they gave us the space for free, but let me take the festival out of Publica and also bring it down to the ground so that ordinary Malaysians like myself will have access to these artists and will have an opportunity to actually talk to them and know more about why they are refugees, why they have left their homes. And that's what I did last year. And it was a big thing because we took them to the Nigel Gardner plantation, and there people came forward to say, oh my God, we didn't know that there is this much story to the refugee crisis. And at the end of the day, they are people just like you and me, and we need to do something, you know. So that is how the festival actually expanded from something which was haphazardly put together to something that took on a bigger and better shape, and then became an advocacy tool in itself, got expanded. And then, you know, we came up with this festival committee, and unanimously decided that Saleh, who has got this enormous experience, to become the next festival director. So he is no more the co-director. I am no more the co-director, definitely, because I stepped down after the festival ended a few weeks ago. And Saleh is now the director of the Refugee Festival, and I can't even wait to see what's going to happen next year, like the changes that he's going to bring, how brilliant it's going to become. And, you know, I on a personal level, I feel really glad that I was able to build this from scratch. And in 5 years that I was able to kind of, you know, give it to them because it belongs to them. The festival belongs to them and they need to take ownership. So I'm glad that it grew to a level where it could be given to them as you know, as something that they need to now work on, expand, and do whatever they want to do. It's their tool, it's their platform.
Well, it's really exciting to see sort of the evolution of it. I mean, starting out as perhaps more of a celebration among the different communities to sort of using it as a very powerful advocacy tool and really towards empowerment as well. Saleh, you know, as a, I think you started as a participant in the Refugee Festival, and now you are the director of the festival. What does the festival mean to you? I mean, how important it is for the refugee community in Malaysia? And
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Actually, the Refugee Festival is very, very important for me and for all refugees in Malaysia. That's why Refugee Festival have impact. Refugee Festival is one opportunity that all people from different countries, they come, and also the local audience and participants, they attend and join the Refugee Festival. We knows about each other with Refugee Festival. Another issue that all people, all human have knowledge, they have skills and very good experience. We can share some story, our ability and our skill with each other, and actually we know with this way we can share something. And also many times the media, some NGO, they talk about refugee like they are very oppressed. It's true, yeah, we are oppressed because we know right, but it's one phase of refugee condition. Another phase is the ability and the knowledge and the skills of refugee. We also need to talk about the refugee skills and knowledge with Refugee Festival because the refugee community no voice, no same opportunity like local peoples. So the Refugee Festival is opportunity like refugee voice. Another thing, most refugees, they thinking we are in isolation. With Refugee Festival, they come out from isolation and talk face to face and directly with local participants, so they can find a connection. I think is very, very important. We need, because we are all human, we stay in for many years in Malaysia. We need connection and we need cooperation. We need work together. So for me, it's very important.
Yeah, I mean, that is really wonderful, sort of the idea that it allows for a connection beyond having the same language, right? Being able to convey feelings and experiences without having to necessarily, have a conversation. Is through the arts, through the presentations.
Yeah, actually, we need the conversation.
Mm.
Because refugee, they have many different story from different country, different cultures, different arts. Everything is different, but they come together in a refugee festival and doing. It's very, very, very nice. If you come to refugee festival, you see one part of refugee from Somalian community, another part is from Iran, another part is from Afghanistan. It's like international festival, but under refugee festival name. I think it's very, very, very good experience for refugee participants, for us, for local participants, for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I also, I think I met you, Saleh, through attending one of the panels. And I think if I'm not mistaken, it was a panel on mental health. And, I was very struck at sort of these kinds of issues that we don't necessarily think about necessarily, but, through these panels discussion and also through sort of the arts and the photo exhibition and the performances that we're able to understand better what is going on within the community, what's going on in Malaysia.
Yeah. And another issue, sorry, when some local friends, some local people, they don't know about the refugee condition in Malaysia. When we ask what is the refugee, they said maybe some people, they stay on the road, they ask money, something. We can share our knowledge, our skill, and we can talk about our condition with Refugee Festival. So with Refugee Festival, the participants, the audience knows more about the real condition of refugees. So I think it's very, very important.
It's very important.
Because some people thinking refugees just oppressed people.
Yeah, and actually this is a great...
No knowledge. Yeah, no knowledge, no skills. But we try to show some good knowledge with the Refugee Festival.
Yeah, actually you're highlighting sort of the focus of our discussion as well, the fact that we want to also pay attention to the active agency of the refugees, that their story is not just about suffering and about oppression, but it's also about what the talents, experiences that they also bring with them. So this year, Saleh, there were quite a number of challenges. I mean, we were in the middle of a pandemic, so you couldn't do a usual way of having face-to-face performances and so forth. And also there was a lot of backlash against refugees in Malaysia, which I understand many refugee artists withdrew from the program because, rightly so, they were fearing, for their safety. With all these challenges, what made the organizers decide to go forth with the festival?
Actually, this year the Refugee Festival was very different and was very hard for us because we didn't have the experience with online festival. So in March, actually we had planned for physical festival, the committee festival, Mahi and I. When the pandemic came, we postponed everything, change everything. So we're thinking about the online is also a good option in this time. So, but no experience. I was full of stress because I knew the refugee condition on that time from March. We talk about the epidemic time. All refugee was very, very worried about the economic issue, about the financial issue, because they can't pay the rent for house. They didn't have money for food. So all of them was busy about this issue. They take care about health. And actually they forget the refugee festival. But it was very hard, but we didn't stop. We continue. We talk about some friends, and we invite the refugee artists and participants. Finally, they joined. The good issue in this year, we had many participants, our audience, like many thousands audience from different countries. Like they watch online the talents, the part of festival, with, social media. So it was very good, but it was not like very emotional, like physical theater, because the connection was very hard with online, with audience. But we did. For me, I'm happy because the impact of Refugee Festival this year also was very good.
So, I mean, one of the, so many challenges happening at the same time with technology, and then sort of having enough people to come, but you were also able to sort of make use of the technology and the fact that it was online, and therefore you had a larger audience as well, which is, I think, sort of a give and take of this kind of platform, not having the connection, so having a larger audience.
We found a solution another way. Some part of Refugee Festival we recorded by refugee artists. They sent to Mahi or I, then we publish. But the panels was all online. The big challenge from refugee side, some of them no Wi-Fi, don't have high quality of internet. When they join online, the internet like technical problem like disconnected.
Yes.
So thinking what we can do, then we suggested to them, please record your poet, your art, something, then we can publish. So we're thinking about different way, but totally the Refugee Festival this year was good, yeah, because some people watched from another country, also from European country, and they attend actually. One refugee, her name is Sunita. She is an Afghan girl. She attend and she singing rap from America and sent to us. We published the Refugee Festival, and also another refugee from Australia, different countries. So it was totally international festival.
Yes, and Mahi, for this festival is sort of really, I know we were in conversation also throughout the festival, and there was a lot of fear also surrounding the festival. While it was a celebration, there was also a lot of fear because of the situation with the pandemic, and also with the rising xenophobia that was happening. One of the very powerful image during this year's festival is the empty chair during the panel discussion. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, as you rightfully pointed out, this year there was unprecedented xenophobic backlash, something that Malaysia has never seen. We have never seen something like this in Malaysia before. It was so well planned and so well coordinated. You can't say one sentence good about the refugees or the migrant workers. The next minute you are targeted and they call you names, they call your parents names, and it was very, very difficult. So what happened was, while a lot of refugees wanted to perform, but they were also scared, because they were it was relentless, and they felt like, oh my God, and some of them were really feeling scared to even speak out, because, it's not just about them, it's about the community also getting angry with them for kind of like, rattling the things too much, like, why are you rocking the boat so much, those kinds of things. So when they decided that, okay, we are not going to perform this year, we thought, okay, that's fair enough. And also in our conversations with other civil society organizations and Malaysians, like-minded Malaysians such as yourself and others, people said maybe, just maybe, this is the time for them to take a step back and for Malaysians to come together and say, we stand in solidarity with the refugees. So we decided, yes, fine. So we'll go ahead with the festival. And like what Saleh rightfully pointed out, this year, we were able to get artists from all over the world to actually perform. So we did not have the restriction. But I also did not want the refugee narrative to be completely wiped out of it. So I thought, okay, you know, I have a great looking chair. Why don't I just come up with this empty chair, you know, where every frame in a panel will have an empty chair, and that represents the absence. It kind of showcases the fact that, you know, a refugee who should rightfully be there, legitimately be there, is absent. And, you know, that chair represented the refugee voice. And we thought it was really important. That mark had to be made, and we went ahead and did that.
I mean, it was definitely a very powerful visual, perhaps sort of the loudest voice, I would say, in the panel, when just seeing
Exactly.
that. Yeah, definitely a mark. And it kind of really reminded us of this situation that we're experiencing, like you said, an unprecedented backlash, and sort of, you know, sort of, I think for members of the public also is a really an important realization of what is happening, and sort of also reflecting what we can also do to stay.
And also for Malaysians who were who didn't want to really think about it, it was like staring right at your face. You couldn't do nothing about it. When you were watching the panels, you know, it was staring right at you. But also, you know, on a personal note, the second day of the festival was really difficult for me. I even had a conversation with Saleh, because Saleh and I, we really spoke a lot about, you know, should we go ahead? And the good thing about Saleh is he's a go-getter. He's like, yes, we will do it. And then he's like, okay, we'll think about all the problems as they come, but let's go and do it. So the thing is that, you know, on the second day, there were, you know, I was tagged, the PDRM was tagged in all the conversations. I mean, in all the comments with, you know, some of the cyber trolls saying, cyber troopers saying that, you know, oh, go after her, strip her of the citizenship, and all of that was fine. They also went after Saleh. But what really bothered me was when they called my mother a whore. So, because my mom is no more, and it's not like I can make a phone call and talk to her and everything will be okay. So the second day, I was completely distraught. But, you know, it also made me think that, you know, despite the fact that I am in a safe space, that I have rights in this country as a citizen, look at the emotional trauma that I'm going through, because they're taking a whack at my family personally, and my mom, who means the world to me. And I was asking myself, how would refugees feel, you know, in the fact that they're you know, the status in Malaysia, the position in Malaysia is so precarious, you know. So, and then I decided, even though, you know, the early morning I was like, no, I'm going to cancel the festival. This is just too much. I can't deal with it. But after a few hours, you know, I realized, okay, no, this is more reason for us to go ahead with the festival. But of course, what we did was we were careful. We monitored all the comments, but we told ourselves, no, nothing is going to stop us. It's a 1 week festival, and the 1 week festival will go on. And also because, you know, we were excited to have Behruz Buchani in conversation with us on the festival as well. So, you know, he came on because he wanted, it was his way of showing solidarity with the refugees in Malaysia, because he too understood about the xenophobia and the backlash and what it was doing to the refugee community here as well.
I mean, both of you have such great courage, and of course the team that you're working on. You know, I also was following a little bit of with the comments that people were making, and it does seem like so orchestrated. You know, it was always something there all the time, and the trolls were just relentless. Definitely. I mean, Saleh, for you, did you at one point feel like, is this worth it? Like, should we continue? Should we just stop and wrap up? I mean, what was it that gave you the courage to sort of move on and feel like, no, we really need to do this. This is very important.
Actually, we need to continue, because the challenges continue. The problems, still we have many problems. So also the goal of festival is not just for a short time, for 1 year, for 2 years. We need to continue for a long time. The people must know about the refugee condition. The Refugee Festival is for connection, for knows and each other, and we really need this. I hope in next year the more sponsors and friends support the Refugee Festival. We can do like better than before, And I think the Refugee Festival is power of refugee and also the voice of refugee. We need to continue. If we stop the Refugee Festival, I think the refugee community also lost the hope. So it's not good. You know, when I was in my country, we have Hari Raya in our country. We have New Year. But here, because no right, I don't feel I have Hari Raya. For me, Hari Raya is Refugee Festival, really. So it's Refugee Hari Raya. We need to continue with local cooperation, with international supporting. So it's very, very important. If we stop the Refugee Festival, I'm sure the countries, the NGO, the locals forget the refugee challenges. So for me, it's very, very, very important. We must continue the Refugee Festival. We have different and big challenges, but we can fight with challenge with Refugee Festival.
Yeah, that's
You can find new opportunity with Refugee Festival.
that is very
So it's very important.
yes. That it gives hope, and I like what you said that this is refugee power, where the
Yeah.
voice can be heard and felt. Did you get feedback from the refugee communities? Like, how did they feel with the festival this year because of its, sort of unprecedented, backdrop of its happening?
Yeah, actually, in refugee community, they have many WhatsApp, Telegram groups. They update something about refugee, and they update the news about the refugee and the host country. So every day I publish the refugee news with them and share the links. They watch, and they are actually all of them very happy, because Refugee Festival is not just the, for example, Afghan refugee voice. It's the all refugee voice. And but this year was really different because all refugee was worried about the epidemic. But the feedback was positive because they don't thinking we can do the refugee festival this year like online. When we did, they was very happy because I checked the followers of refugee festival. It was like so many thousands, and yeah, you know, refugee condition is very different. For example, you have audience in university, you have audience in your society, but refugee no audience. With refugee festival, we can find audience. We need audience because every time the refugee just listen, the UNICEF speaking, the government, the NGO, the institution, but no opportunity for talking, for speaking, for sharing the ability and skills and knowledge. So when Refugee Festival gave opportunity, when we talk, we feel power. Yes, we feel, we find hope. So it's very, very important.
Thank you, Saleh. That was really powerful to hear that the importance of the Refugee Festival. Now, both of you use different form of art forms to convey your messages. Mahi, you're a filmmaker and a journalist. Saleh, you're a writer. You direct theater. What is the role of the arts, or what more potential of the role of the arts that we can use as a form of political action or advocacy for refugees? Can you say a little bit about the work that you maybe have done before and what you like to see more of in Malaysia? Mahi, we can start with you.
The thing is, like, you very correctly pointed out that I use especially over the last, I think about 13 years, I think, I have been using documentary films. I've been, my ability or my expertise as a filmmaker to actually talk about very, very difficult issues. All my films that I've done on the refugees are on the Rohingya. So it looked at, it's the first film was like the 101 guide to the Rohingya issue and complexity of the issue, especially. Second, looked at the kind of sexual and physical and emotional violence that they were forced to contend with during the transit from Burma to Malaysia. And the third one, which was done in 2017, actually talked about Rohingya girls who are trafficked, sexually abused, and then sold off as child brides. So, but I've also done little videos, not just on refugee issues, but as advocacy tools to talk about so many different issues, from cancer to plastics pollution to the rights of transgender community in Malaysia, for example. But if you ask me, as a filmmaker, I'm really very depressed at this point in time. Why? Because of this new ruling by FINAS, by the minister, which says that, initially he said that everyone needs to get a permission to kind of do films. And then he realized his folly. And then he said, okay, no. If you want to talk about, or if you want to have a film about, a little clip about your child dancing in the garden and you want to upload it in Facebook, go ahead. But what does that mean for an independent filmmaker like me, who has always done films based on very difficult issues? I mean, how am I going to get permission for filming for my films that is about anti-trafficking, that looks at refugee issues and migrant issues? So how am I going to keep on advocating or keep on creating awareness using my films when I don't even know if I'm able to make another film? It's not about the company that you need to set up or the 50,000 ringgit paid up capital you need to show. It's about the fact that 1 week before I start filming, I need to be able to show a filming permit that says that I can go ahead and film for that particular documentary on that particular topic. I'm never going to get permission. So that's really depressing. But having said that, when it comes to the Refugee Festival, I believe that we have always pushed ahead. It's not that I did not have to comply with some of the regulations by the special branch. Every year I need to, from the time we decide on the date of the festival, I am already informing them. The lineup of the festival, the program, everything, the exact place it's going to be held, the time, and especially who is going to come to kind of like launch the festival, like who are the speakers, what's the panel about, every detail is given to the special branch. But we pushed ahead with everything. We did not say we are going to compromise on this, that, or the other. We said that, yes, there were some very difficult panels that discussed about very difficult and very sensitive issues, but we said, no, we are going to soldier on. So I do believe that when it comes to the refugee voices and using the art as a platform to actually convey and keep and continuing to talk about issues that affect them and the larger society as a whole, I believe that they are going to go ahead with that. And, in my case, I've decided that, okay, fine, all these years I have survived, and I've never stopped myself from pushing, pushing for issues to be heard, from pushing the boundaries. So I guess I'm just going to keep on making films irrespective of whether or not I get permission. And the thing is, if you look at the last film that I did on the Rohingya children who are sexually assaulted and then sold off as child brides, there is an interview where the trafficker will talk about how his colleagues in Bangladesh, they actually forge passports and then they get X number of girls to travel by flight into Malaysia, bribe the immigration officers at KLIA, bring them into the country and sell them off for 18,000 ringgit per child. Now, the government came down very hard on me. The censor came down very hard on me. But 6 weeks later, more than 100 immigration officers were transferred out of KLIA. So all I'm saying is, don't take away my creative license. Don't take away my right to speak, and don't take away my right to use my art as a way of talking about issues, getting people to be a part of the discussion, looking at how policies can be changed so that together we can progress as one country, one people. Don't stop me from doing that. Work with me, because I put my life, on the chopping board so that you can actually have that information. Take the information, do good with it. Look at how we can actually work together and how we can put in security or safety mechanisms or different protocols that will allow for effective implementation of the anti-trafficking laws, for example. So I really hope that, if at all the Malaysian government or officials or ministers are actually watching this, that they will actually take a step back and say, okay, maybe it's time for us to to work with different people, filmmakers and journalists and CSOs. I'm one in three. So, you know, work with someone like me, work with someone like Saleh, work with the refugees. You know, let's see how we can, there are difficult, you know, issues. How can we iron them out? You know, how can we go beyond these challenges? But how can we do it as one people? Because together we are that much more stronger.
Yeah, that's definitely a very, very important point. I mean, it's not about, I think there's sometimes a tendency to want to say, you know, don't air the dirty laundry in public, right? Or don't tell, you know, people what's happening, or you're just making our country look bad. But actually that's not what it is. It's about making the country better, right? Trying to figure out what are the problems, you know, what we need to do to address these problems. And these are very critical issues that you've brought to light through the work that you're doing, through the documentary. By the way, I mean, I show your documentary in my class, and we have a really, really good discussion and really an eye-opener for my students. And I have students from all over the world. We have international students, and for them, it's the first time understanding that this is happening, and they were shocked. But this is a story that needed to be told
Right.
for it to happen, right? You have to confront this real situation to be able to address it.
And I do also hope that there are many more people like you in public universities who will actually take the film and use it, you know, to have these very important and crucial discussions with their students. Because every time I make a film, after that, I don't charge anything for screening or anything like that. But unfortunately, I do have access to the private universities. But ideally, I would like everyone to be able to watch it and to have critical discussions. It's not that, you know, I'm just, you know, my life's goal is just to tarnish the reputation of the government or something like that. Please, it's my country as well. You know, I am Malaysian, you know, and I think that it's like, you know, if we do not acknowledge that there are issues, we are never going to look at durable solutions and ways in which we can put measures in place so that we can reach some kind of an equilibrium in the future. So that's what we are looking at. And I really hope that we'll get a chance to work together, that officials will work together with filmmakers such as myself and also all the refugee artists as well.
Yes, definitely. How about you, Saleh? I mean, we had a really great collaboration on one of your theater performances on child marriages, and that's sort of one of the things that you've been working on. What other art projects that you're working with the refugee community here?
Yeah, before that, I want to talk about the impact of arts. For me, art is not like politic. The politic make like partition between us, but the art is a language for all of us. So every time I'm trying to talk with our audience with art. You know, from 2017 until now, we have many audience, more than 5,000 audience in Malaysia. I'm in the Advocacy level. My best friend in Malaysia now, I have many best friends in Malaysia. I found them with Refugee Festival and Parasite performance. So this is also the impact, the power of art. And I have many idea how we can support the refugee community with art. So I have actually methodology like the theater of the office. The theater of the office also have different parts. Workshop is very good for motivation. Most refugees, they know motivation, no self-confidence. So with the workshop, we support them. They have experience, they have knowledge, but no motivation. They scared. Uh, and also we have performance, and also we have training. Some refugee, they want to learn about something about art, like writing, directing, acting, research, something. So in 2019 we had this program, and the outcome of that training was the performance by name of Shut Up Music. We had a show and a refugee festival. So we have different part of activity for refugee festival. But you know the condition of refugee, I can work independent with myself. is very hard. Uh, I and my team need like local partner. If we have got local partner, we can do like best work for refugee, especially for refugee youth. We try to do our responsibility for refugee community, and I think that's, yeah, we must do this.
Thank you, Saleh. So I mean, I've sort of, you know, this conversation has been really eye-opening. It really speaks to, you know, the kind of work that refugees and also allies are actively working on, advocating and mobilizing for their rights. And I was very struck when Saleh said, usually we're just talked to, like people tell us what to do. Or we're trying to figure out what's the problem, you know, how to solve the problem, the refugee problems, right? But we're seeing how, you know, refugees are active. They have there's a lot of ideas, a lot of talent, a lot of passion, and there's a lot there that we can learn, and we can engage with the community here. And I guess I wanted to sort of end by asking, you know, because I know people always ask this. I mean, you know, once they listen to and are very inspired to what both of you have been doing, what can members of the public do as allies? Like, you know, how can we sort of stand in solidarity, and also so maybe take another step to work together with refugees within this sort of avenue? Mahi, you want to start that?
I will let Saleh talk about the festival and, you know, what kind of allies or what kind of collaboration he would like from the Malaysian community, the Malaysian society, because he's now the festival director. But I would like to share about the project that I'm working on next, because I did, you know, I did talk about how the festival started and where it is at this point in time. So even though I've stepped down, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set up a physical art space which will work as a training ground, rehearsal ground for artists with minimum payment. Like, for example, the refugee artists, they actually use the space for the entire month, but they pay 100 ringgit. So that they are able to use the space as many times as possible. Like, for example, Saleh brings his theater there and they do all the rehearsals and all the trainings there. And also for them to use the space to give workshops, like workshops where they are paid for, where Malaysians and others can actually come and be a part of the workshop. And they get paid for actually conducting those workshops. And thirdly, I would like to then also call for collaboration between artists and researchers and people like from the university or from your faculty itself, who would like to really look at what kind of, you know, performing arts do these refugees bring, for example, and to use that to look at, you know, how does this connect them with the Malaysians? What are the similarities? Because trust me when I say that there are so many more similarities than differences. So the art space will also invite for collaboration between all Malaysian artists from whatever different spectrum that they are at, in not just theater, but also filmmakers and directors and singers and songwriters, everyone who can become a part of this art space as well, and work in collaboration, produce something that is, you know, that is eye-catchy, a collaboration between an Afghan performing art and a very traditional Malaysian performing art. How does that work? What in these two merges, what do we get to see? So it's really a place where people can come brainstorm, and the whole essence of it is to show that we can work together. Firstly, that the refugees are much more than the experiences that they have gone through. Secondly, that we can work together. If we work together, we can create beautiful things, you know. And lastly, to make sure that the performing arts and the art that the refugees bring is actually documented, so that, you know, it's my way or our way of actually acknowledging that they are a part of this society, and we are richer for what they bring with us, with them.
That's
So specifically, if there's anything that people who are watching this can do for me is that I'm looking for an art space in Ampang, a place where, like, for example, there are shop houses which have been abandoned. So, and if the owner is quite kind of happy to see some content there, as opposed to, you know, maybe ghosts doing a tango every night, then please do get in touch with us so that, you know, we can have this conversation with the owners and see if we can get it for free, maybe for the next few years, as a way of, you know, developing. Yeah.
That is a really fantastic idea, and I really hope that. And I'm pretty sure you're going to make it materialize, because it's such a fantastic idea. I'm sure a lot of people are also interested in providing support for something like this to happen, a space of coming together of sort of, you know, different communities, not just refugees, but also Malaysians. And I got a little taste of that when, you know, we collaborated, the Gender Studies program collaborated with Saleh, with Paris to Theatre on the child bride issue. And we know we had audience, international audience at the time. We had visiting audience from, I think, like 10 different countries come.
Yeah.
And, you know, Malaysians and also people who were non-Malaysians who also attended. And it was such a great conversation that started, you know, through this performance of Theatre of the Oppressed that Saleh had led, that had this cross conversation of the issue of child marriage, which was not just a problem in Afghanistan or a problem in Malaysia, right? It was a cross-cutting all over the world. We're having this discussion about child marriage, and it was a conversation that was facilitated through the Theatre of the Oppressed that Saleh had directed. So I'm really excited at the idea of having more of these kinds of cross conversations. Saleh, where, you know, what are you envisioning? What do you want the next festival to be? And, you know, what can members of the public participate or step up as allies?
Sorry, the question is not clear for me.
So how would you like to see the next Refugee Festival to be, and what kind of support would you like to see?
Yeah. Actually, in this year, because the epidemic, the sponsor was very limited, and we want to make a plan for physical festival for next year in KL and Penang. I want to bring some change in the Refugee Festival. We want to show something still we didn't have show with Refugee Festival. We want to show, we want to bring that part also to Refugee Festival. And also something is about language, about quality. We want to try do best. We need actually the media supporting. It's very important for us because everyone have connection with media. So the people, they knows about the Refugee Festival, about the details with media. Another issue, the academic organization cooperation is very important for us. And also some organization like Beyond Border, and they support the refugee community in Malaysia. We need their cooperation also about Refugee Festival in next year. And we have, maybe we have a different plan, different program in the Refugee Festival. Like something you mentioned, it's the same challenges between refugee community and local community. We can talk about this issue also. So still we're thinking what we can do, what is the best way for Refugee Festival in next year. But without supporting the media, the academic organization, the NGO, the locals, friends, we cannot do actually that. So yeah, with cooperation.
We just lost Saleh right at the end there. we're just about to wrap up, but hopefully Saleh will be able to come back on. Let me see. Okay, we just lost Saleh, but I think he was just wrapping up as well at the end, and sort of sort of giving us a little bit of insight to an exciting new direction with the Refugee Festival. And I think, as I know, as Mahi, as you had described how sort of is evolved from year to year to year, and it gets better and better and better, and more powerful every year. And I think I have to say, I was very struck at how, what you started 5 years ago, and how it has evolved so much, and to be such a powerful tool. We have Saleh. Saleh, would you like to continue with what you were saying earlier about sort of the need of all these different sectors to come together in support of the Refugee Festival? Hi, Saleh. Would you like to just continue? You can unmute yourself. Saleh, would you unmute yourself?
Okay, sorry, yeah, the internet disconnected.
Yes. So I think you were about to wrap up. Would you like to add anything else about the festival coming up?
Yes, I'm very exciting for next year. We need Mahi. Mahi is the founder of Refugee Festival. Without her cooperation, we cannot do so.
I've already told him a zillion times that I'm going to help him find funds.
Yeah. I know. Just I'm worried about the financial issue.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to find funds. Really, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
But another thing about the part of the festival, the escape, the planning, I can do with the committee team of the Refugee Festival. Totally, I'm very exciting. Maybe, I want to say to Mahi and all friends, maybe I bring some change in like committee members also. New members, but more have more experience about the working.
Well, we're very, very excited for the next Refugee Festival. And I was just telling Mahi earlier while you were out how it's really amazing how when it started with a small, gathering of people to what it is now with thousands of people all over the world, watching and participating and learning in the process. So thank you so much to both of you for the work that you do. And really, I mean, it really enriches our lives, and also just allows us to understand so much better each other, to understand what's the refugee experience, and listen to the voices, and and connect with each other. I think that's what the kind of what Saleh and Mahi were saying, how the festival allows for connections to happen, and that's how we understand and get to know each other better. So thank you again for both your time today.
Thanks so much for having us. And Saleh, best wishes with the festival. I'm so excited. You don't know how excited I am to see the festival next year. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, and we'll all be supporting and also be looking forward to the festival in this coming year, which is not too long in terms of the planning time. Thank you again to both your time.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.